What do you know about local politics? Do you know who your city council members are? What changes are coming to the city? Here at Hayward 18, we see the potential that young people have to affect the future. That future starts at home, here in Hayward. We meet each of the members of the City Council of Hayward and get a chance to see what they're all about, what projects they're working on, what their goals for the future are, and their past accomplishments. See the people who affect your day-to-day and learn how you can get involved here on Hayward 18.
Madam Mayor Barbara Halliday, welcome. Thank you for being here. Welcome to Hayward 18.
Thank you. I'm just delighted to be here with you today and to meet you and to be in the studio.
Absolutely, absolutely. I have to say that you are our guest of honor. Well, let's keep the names of the people that you work with, and maybe then you can explain to me a little bit how the City Council works. You're the mayor, of course, and you're part of the City Council. That means that you have 6 colleagues.
Yes.
We've interviewed every single one of them. We had Sarah Lamnin, Francisco Cermeño, Marvin Peixot, Al Mendel, Elisa Marquez, and Council Member Mark Salinas.
Yes.
That was in preparation to be here and talking to you. What is the distinction for you as the mayor versus the rest of the council members?
You know, it's very interesting. We operate as what's called a council manager form of government, and we are a charter city, meaning we have sort of our own constitution, or charter as we call it, that says how we run. Now, the mayor doesn't have a lot of power. People think the mayor can do anything, and that it just isn't true. The mayor really is one member of council, member of a 7-member council, and I like to think of us as a team. And one person, even the mayor, cannot really accomplish anything without the help of the others, or at least 3 of the others, to really produce some legislation or change some policy. What we do as a team is we actually hire the city manager and 2 other positions, the city clerk and the city attorney. But the city manager is the most important one, because the city manager then is responsible for really overseeing all of the parts of the city, the services that we offer to the public, which primarily are public safety, police, and fire. Those are our 2 most overwhelmingly biggest departments and where most of our energy is focused. But of course, as Hayward, we try to do a lot of other things. I think one of the most important services we offer is the library, and we probably can talk about that. But anyway, so we
Absolutely.
hire that person who really runs the day-to-day operations of the city. What the council does is set policy for the city, and the mayor is the sort of chairman of the board. I liken it to chairman of the board as opposed to the CEO, who's the city manager. And so it's my responsibility to run the meetings and to see that everybody gets a fair chance to speak and express their thoughts, and that we work together well as a team.
When people want to be involved, and I know that you have a lot of experience in this, and I think that I have a couple of questions about that, but let's say that somebody wants to be involved. What opportunities does the City of Hayward offer for people, for citizens, to just invite them to meetings, or maybe even being part of a committee?
Oh, there are a lot of opportunities, and I just think it's wonderful that so many people do step up and want to be involved. I guess I could point to my own experience. I moved to Hayward in 1986 and really didn't know anybody here, but I got involved in my own neighborhood, and we had a neighborhood association. It was actually this neighborhood right across the Hesperian Boulevard from here, the Southgate neighborhood, and so I got to know the people in my own neighborhood, and I became a member of the board of their homeowners association. And then and then I got to know some people politically. I'll tell you, the issue that really brought me into city government was the 880-92 interchange. Caltrans unveiled a plan in 1991 that would have taken 200 homes around that interchange. And I, at the time, was serving as the president of our homeowners association. And so we joined with the other neighborhoods around that interchange and really started mounting a campaign, and we went to our city government and they helped us. And so that's how I got to know a lot of members of the city council. Ultimately, that interchange that you see there is the product of 11 years of work by a task force that the city appointed, that I was on, to get Caltrans to scale down their plans and make an interchange that fit into the neighborhood better. So, but in that way, I got to know city council members, and I started then working as a commissioner. I got my first appointment to what was then called the Citizens Advisory Commission in 1990. And I went on to serve on some other short-term task forces. And then in 1996, I was appointed to the Planning Commission. And in 2004, when one of our city council members, who was a good friend of mine from my neighborhood, Southgate, Doris Rodriguez, she decided not to run again. And I thought, well, I've got some experience. I've been on the Planning Commission, and I think our neighborhood needs a voice in there. So I stepped up and ran that year, and I happily won that election.
Which brings me to my next question. I really want to know what the future of the city is more than the past. I'm interested in seeing how the city government is prepared to take the economy of Hayward into the future. I know that a lot of those measures that had to be taken in the past were taken because of financial pressure. You were trying to save the boat, and I think that you probably did, although you said something crucial back then. You said, and it may not be enough. Has it been enough? Have we steered out of the route of collision?
We definitely are on the road to financial stability.
Okay.
Now, and we have developed tools to help us get there and look at the impact of what we're doing. And as I think in anything, balance, using a variety of approaches so not asking, say, our employees themselves to bear the whole burden, or our taxpayers to bear the whole burden, or our business community. We all need to contribute to that, and that's what's happening. And that's why we have this wonderful tool where we can look at what our budget lines are, project. You can project in out years both income and expenses. It doesn't always exactly match what actually happens,
right.
But you can do a good job of projecting those things, and we are really seeing how we're closing what we saw as a future gap between revenues and expenses, that we're closing that with a number of measures. Some of it has been borne by our employees, and I just have so much appreciation for all of them. They recognize we're all in this together, and they have made a number of concessions in terms of contributing toward the payment of the benefits that they have been promised. And as a city, we absolutely believe in providing those benefits of good retirement and medical coverage to our employees. But they are now contributing more toward those costs, because those are the costs that are rising faster. Our revenues are rising too. All of our business revenues are in tax revenues,
that's good
but
news.
they're not rising as fast as those costs of retirement and medical that we pay to an organization called CalPERS. So we're taking a variety of measures. So we have had our voters vote for some taxes, and we have another one that is coming this fall. We're asking that the voters approve an increase in our what's called the real property transfer tax, which is only paid when you buy or sell a house. So that will contribute some, but I would say our employees have contributed enormously, as have we have looked at every operation in the city and tried to see how we can streamline it or reduce expenses. And the balance in all of this is that we need to do anything we need to do. We do not want to reduce the services we provide to our community, to the residents, the people and who live and work in Hayward. So I think we're managing to do that.
Everybody knows that there's an election year. Your position is being challenged, and so are other positions in council. We would like to hear that there is a united front, that there is a united council, and so far that's what I've heard from your colleagues. How difficult is it going to be to maintain that level of civility in all the meetings and in all of the agenda, and put Hayward's interests first in a time, we're not even a year, we're just months away, in a time where, in many ways in a political life, this is a matter of survival for many.
Well, I think that we have six very we have 6 very cooperative council members. We all put civility above, I think, anything, that we will always treat, and I respect every single one of my fellow council members, including the one that is running against me in this election. He and one of the other council members also ran again. We all ran for the position of mayor.
It's a long habit.
4 years ago, yes. And I think that one of the things I took from that campaign was how respectfully we all treated each other, and I was very proud of that, and that is continuing today.
Okay.
Although the other council member that ran against me last time, Francisco Zermino, I am very honored to have his support and the support of three other members of council, Council Member Lamnon and Council Members Mendel and Marquez, who are not on the ballot this year.
Correct.
But I am so honored to, and that makes me believe we do have a good, strong team that will move forward together. It doesn't mean we always all agree with each other either, and that's healthy, and that's what I like to foster as the mayor and the sort of leader of the discussion. Is we need to hear all of the different viewpoints so that we can get to the best answer that balances everybody's needs and interests and turns out to be the best solution for our city. So I think that we respectfully agree to disagree with each other, and I know that last time we got through a difficult campaign with civility and no ugliness or negativity, and I'm very optimistic that that will occur this time as well.
We're looking forward to seeing the results. I think that I agree completely with you. I think that especially a form of government like the one that we have, council, should embrace and celebrate opposition, because the idea is that the growth will come from that. I want to talk to you about heroes, because like city employees and other members of the community have shouldered this burden placed on the city since the depression of 2008. In your mind, who are the heroes of the city that you could write a letter recommendation of maybe even give them an award?
Oh my gosh, I do get awards to a lot of people. There are so many things.
I know, and what are the things that you look for in these awards?
People who are contributing something to our community, and especially to our young people, and to our strength, which is our diversity, to our collective culture, to sharing, to recognizing human rights. I know in larger scale terms that my heroes are people like certainly Dr. King, Cesar Chavez, who I especially appreciate because he actually came through Hayward. I wasn't here then, but I know the history of him, doing the remarkable work that he did with the United Farm Workers and having rallies in Hayward back in those days. Somebody like Nelson Mandela, who just last night I was so appreciative of getting an award from the New Bridges Presbyterian Church for, it was their Spirit of Nelson Mandela Award.
Oh, congratulations.
And for work we've done in the city to foster cooperation among people of different cultures. And yes, we did a lot of work last year when people were very upset about some of the things that were coming down from Washington, and we put a task force together, and they came up with a recommendation that we declare ourselves a sanctuary city. We did that with a process and a lot of thought and a lot of discussion, so that when we did it, it really meant something. And then they developed they worked on revising a 1992 anti-discrimination plan. The city of Hayward has always been there. No room for racism in Hayward, but they revised that plan, and they have come up with a document called the Commitment for an Inclusive, Equitable, and Compassionate Community. And I just think that speaks volumes about who we are as a city and as a community. We are so rich from our diversity. So the heroes for me out there are the people who are working to help the people in need in the city. I point to, and I know that I would leave people out if I tried to list, but I think of people like Ralph Morales at the South Hayward Neighborhood Collaborative that work tirelessly to provide food and shelter and clothing for people who don't have those things. We don't have enough shelters for homeless people in our city, but during the winter, at least, we do have, and the city supports this, at the South Hayward Neighborhood Collaborative, we have a winter warming shelter that the city helps support, and and people volunteer and bring food, and so that when it's really pouring rain or very freezing cold for here, people do have a warm shelter. But we need more of that. And so my heroes are the people who go out tirelessly and work to do this. One of my heroes, we lost her last year, but her name is Betty DeForest, and she was a leader in helping the less fortunate among us through her whole life.
Until the very end of her life.
Until the very end. She actually was on this task force and went to the first meeting and then passed away. And the task force dedicated that commitment document to her memory.
It's great to hear. I wanted to ask something that maybe has to do with your background. So, like we mentioned before, you've been somehow involved with administration, public administrations for many years. You entered this city council in 2004, and you're being re-elected 2 times. And then, of course, you being the mayor, you were elected for this position in 2014. So it's coming to an end, 4 years. But all of that experience, how does it prepare you in a uniquely way to continue being the mayor of Hayward?
Oh, I'm a great believer in the value of experience, and I know that all along the way, I have run on my experience. Even the very first time, I ran on my experience of being involved as a community leader and as part of the city government through the Planning Commission and others. And also, and I think this is true of each of us that serve on council, is that we bring our own unique world experience with us. So both my journalism, I was a journalist in my 20s. It was before I moved to California, it was back east, but that is where I learned how important local government is in the lives of the people who live in the communities that it serves, and how interesting it is, and how many things you get involved in. And I loved covering local government as a young journalist. And so I think the seeds for me, perhaps being an elected official myself, were maybe planted back then, but that it wasn't at the top of my mind, but I think that they might have been planted then. And then I actually, after I moved to California, I got a job in a very different kind of industry, the insurance industry. It was a specialized insurance that insured physicians for medical malpractice liability. And I got to travel throughout the state, which was great because I had just moved here, and interview doctors when they were being sued by patients, and help develop, what we were going to do. This was an honest company. If the doctor made a mistake, we tried to then figure out how can we compensate, how can we best compensate the patient. Sometimes the doctor didn't make a mistake.
So you were talking to doctors at their happiest moments in life.
Yes, and that might not relate. The most unhappiness. I mean, sometimes had to really. I wished I'd had a degree in psychology sometimes, but and that might not relate, except that I did learn a lot about the civil litigation field, and we do get sued as a city occasionally too. Hopefully not too often, but we do have cases that we have to sit and give direction to our city attorney about how we want to move in these cases, settle them or defend them. And so I think my experience there, and I think each council member, and it's really important that they do, brings their own world experience to the council, and that just makes us stronger as a council and gives us more intelligence with which to make decisions.
And as a mayor, are you still the best prepared person to be the mayor of the city?
Well, I like to think so.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, I do. And actually, when I ran 4 years ago, I felt that I had been on the council the longest of the 3 of us who were running, and had also participated in a number of commissions before that. And I brought all that experience to the table. Well, I can tell you the experience of being mayor is far greater than I had ever imagined it was going to be. And I have learned a lot in the past 4 years. So I do feel that in the next 4 years, I'm very excited to have the prospect of using what I have learned to take us even further along that road to where we want to get to, being a prosperous and really thriving community.
One of the activities that you are most active in the city is recognition and I guess valuing the work that women do in Hayward. We are a city of families, and a lot of times these families don't have a father, and incredible women have to do it all. And I know that you're very active. I think that I wanted to give you the opportunity to do something about that part of your agenda that it's so essential that not everybody embraces in their cities?
Well, I'm a great promoter of women,
Okay.
and and I'm proud to be. When I ran, let me think about this. When I ran for mayor, I was the only woman on city council at that time. There had been other women before, but at that particular time in 2014, I was the only woman on city council, and I have nothing against men. I have not. I want to see women promoted and more women in government, but they were all fine men, and I didn't really have a problem with it. But I did recognize that we needed to do better. We needed to have more balance, and so when I was elected mayor. Sarah Lamning was also elected to the city council, so that made two of us. And then, because I had not been up for election that year from my council seat, we had the opportunity to appoint someone. And I'm very proud of nominating and getting the support of enough council members to appoint Elisa Marquez at that time. And not only was she, so that added, so we went from 1 to 3, just like that.
Well, that for balance right away.
Yes, yes. And also Elisa is the first Latino woman to serve on the city council too. So that was a really, really wonderful moment for me. And yes, as mayor, I work with the other mayors of Alameda County. We actually meet monthly and talk about issues that are common to all of us. And we also serve on a number of agencies like the Alameda County Transportation Commission. So we get to know each other that way. And we're very proud of the fact that 7 of the 14 mayors in Alameda County are women. And so you're seeing more. When I started my career in journalism in the 1970s, the women in government were very rare, although there were a few examples I remember, and I think they may have inspired me as well. But no, we're seeing that now, and I think it's important. I don't think, we're all individuals, but I do think sometimes women, and especially perhaps because of the way we've been raised or socialized, and that may be changing, hopefully it is, that, I think younger boys and girls are much more comfortable with, playing and working with each other. But in my generation, we were socialized differently, and so maybe women do bring a slightly different viewpoint to a situation, and all of the viewpoints are needed. We need to have that dialogue. And so I think it's important that we have more women in government, because I think women can bring a slightly different perspective sometimes to an issue that needs to be heard.
Well, it's I couldn't agree more, and it's wonderful to hear somebody that recognizes that, because I think that there's maybe a general misunderstanding that what some people or what some women are saying is we're all the same. And we don't have to be all the same. Maybe we can have our strengths,
Yes.
and maybe enrich everybody with those. Right now, if you would like to maybe say something to the people that are going to be watching this, this is an equal access opportunity that I gave to all council members, including you. So if there's anything that you want to tell people, remember that, well, we try to talk to young people because we want to invigorate them. We want them to get active and involved and engaged in the civic process, particularly in the elections. We're hoping to be able to talk to young people, but all sorts of people are going to be watching this.
I applaud you for encouraging young people to get involved, and I think that we have seen that young people are somewhat reluctant to get involved. I talked to one the other day who said she had registered to vote, and she got to right before she was going to go to the polls, and she looked at her ballot book and she realized that she didn't know what she was doing. And she had been about to go vote for the first time, but she decided not to. And I said I actually applauded that, because she realized she hadn't done the preparation. It's not an easy thing. You don't just walk into a voting booth. You need to prepare. We have serious ballot questions in California and it can be daunting, but there are lots of services out there, just like shows like you are producing, to help them learn. There are online resources they can go to. Even just the ballot book itself has a lot of, they have the candidate statements. So you do need to, the first thing I would say to any young people out there, first of all, do get registered. You have to get registered to vote, and do proper preparation. At least start the night before in looking at your ballot book and going through it, and talk to people you trust, adults that you trust or your friends, about what's happening. And learn a little bit. follow the news the best you can of what's happening in your local community. And I would also say that while everybody in the country knows who's running for president and probably has an opinion of who to vote for in that position, not nearly as many people know who their local county supervisor or even city council member is. And that is the area where you should know even more, because that is the area where you can make the biggest difference yourself in how your government goes. And also what local government does affects you individually really more, at least on a short-term basis, than anything the federal government does, you know, from the distance of Washington. Not that voting in the federal and statewide elections isn't important, it certainly is, but they get a lot more attention, whereas you can make a bigger difference in your local community and have more of an impact on your own quality of life.
And not only voting, getting engaged, talking to people, helping in a campaign. There's a lot of levels of engagement.
Yes, I'm very fortunate to have a number of young people involved in my campaign already who have been willing to help, and it is a great experience for them. And I can tell you that the first time I ran for city council, I had already worked and volunteered in a number, I wasn't a youth at the time, but I had worked and volunteered in a number of city campaigns, so I knew a lot more about how it was going to go and what to do. And so if you want to be involved in your community and in government in your community, start volunteering to see what campaigning is all about.
I love it. I love it. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Barbara, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. It
welcome.
has been a pleasure for me too. I've really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank
and
you
I
very
do
much.
look forward to coming back.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you.